I want to talk about something I keep getting pushback on. Every time lately I post something helpful AI can do, I get comments saying it's making us dumber, that we're outsourcing our thinking, that we're losing our ability to actually use our own brains. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it's a silly thing to worry about, because it's not. This isn't the first time technology has brought up that exact fear. I have a friend, a little fly on the ceiling. So basically, people said the same thing about calculators, about spell check, about GPS. Every time there's this worry that the tool is going to atrophy something in us. And honestly, sometimes it does. I can't do long division in my head as fast as I used to. I couldn't tell you how to get somewhere without my phone half the time, nor remember my last few friends' phone numbers anymore. So the worry isn't baseless. Tools do change what we practice and what we don't practice. And what we don't practice, we get worse at. But here's what I've landed on after using AI every single day for real work, not just messing around with it. I don't think it has to make you dumber. I think it depends entirely on how you actually use it. It's not the tool that determines the outcome, it's a relationship you build with it. I want to walk you through 3 specific ways I personally make sure that's not happening to me. First one, there's a school in Texas called, I think, Alpha School, run by a guy named Joe Lamont, I believe. He said that some of the students who were girls never thought of themselves as math and science people, ended up scoring 790 out of 790 on the math section of the SAT. 3 of them. The whole model is built around AI tutoring kids at their own pace, and just a couple hours a day, instead of everybody sitting through the same lesson at the same speed, hoping it happens to click. And that really landed for me personally, because there's a stretch where I actually homeschooled my daughter for the first few years of her academic life. And not because I thought school was bad, because I could see she learned certain things differently than how they were being taught to her. She needed a different entry point into the same idea. And sometimes she needed a little more time to get something than some of the other students. And then real life set in, because I did not have the time, and honestly, the patience to be your full-time teacher on top of everything else I had going on. So when I hear about something like this Texas school, where the technology is molding itself to how each individual kid actually learns, instead of forcing every kid to conform to one method, I generally don't see how that's not a benefit. Those kids are engaged because the material is meeting them where they are. They're not sitting there passively, waiting for the generic version of a lesson to happen to work for them. And if it doesn't, just falling further behind. That's not AI replacing a teacher's judgment. That's AI removing one of the biggest obstacles to learning, that every kid in the room is different. And one teacher physically cannot become 15 different teachers to meet all of them individually. The second thing, this is the one I think people conflate the most. I use AI to learn fast, not to think less. Those sound similar, but they're not the same thing. And the difference matters. When I ask AI something, I'm not asking it so I can skip the thinking part entirely. I'm asking it to explain something in a way that actually helps me get there faster. You've heard it before. Tell it to me like you're talking to a 5th grader. Break it down differently. Give me the version that finally makes it click. Because sometimes the first explanation just isn't built for how your brain works. If something's a little more complex and I don't get it on the first pass, that's not me handing off my thinking to a machine. That's me using a tool to accelerate how quickly I personally understand something. And there's a real difference between saying, just tell me the answer so I don't have to think about it, and saying, help me understand this faster so I can think about it more clearly. One of those things keeps you sharp. The other one lets something in, you go soft. And honestly, it's on you in the moment to know which one you're actually doing. AI can't tell the difference for you. You have to be honest with yourself about which one is happening. I admit there are times where I'm in a crunch and I'm like, hey, what are the top 5 topics out there in this niche? Help me do the research. And it starts that brainstorming of ideas. It doesn't pick the one for me. It just starts the whole script writing process and gives me a baseline. And third, I think this is the one that actually matters the most out of all 3. Form your own opinion first. Before you ever throw a question at AI, try to solve it yourself. Land somewhere, even if it's a rough guess, even if it's a half-formed idea you're not fully confident in, because that way the actual thinking happens before AI ever touches the problem. I'm not using AI to replace my brain. I'm using it to check my brain. Ask it, what am I missing here? Where might I be wrong? But ask those questions after you've already done some of the work forming a position, not instead of doing that work. That order matters more than people give it credit for. If you go to AI first, you're starting from its framing of the problem. But if you go to it second, you're starting from your own framing. You're using AI to pressure test what you already believe, not to hand you what to believe in the first place. Those are two completely different relationships with the exact same tool. And from the outside, they can look identical. Someone watching you type a question into AI has no idea which one you're doing. So that's it. Those are the three things I actually do, not in theory, but in practice, to make sure I'm using this technology instead of quietly leaning on it. Let it meet you where you actually learn, the way the Texas school does with its students. Use it to get faster, not lazier, because there's a real difference between acceleration and avoidance. And always, always form an opinion before you go looking for backup. Because at the end of the day, I don't think the real question is whether AI is going to make us dumber. I think the real question is whether we're still willing to show up and do our part of the thinking. That part was never the machine's job. It was always ours. It still is. I'm Dawn. This is Vintage Intelligence, and I'll see you in the next one. And maybe my fly friend won't be here with us.